gaming is difficult. Some people just find it impossible to play video games without assistance. And while this can be solved by experience and time, others look to easier methods of being good at gaming, which come in the form of third-party modifications. Some of them are hacks. Some of them are more subtle. And on the biggest MMO server in Minecraft, the aforementioned third-party modifications come in plenty. Playing Hypixel Skyblock without modifications has been described as terrible, so it's no surprise that many people seek to install tons of mods for Skyblock to make gameplay more convenient. The most popular one of these mods is Skyblock Add-ons, which comes with tons of quality of life improvements. Other mods, however, come at a price. A mod called Skyblock Extras comes at a price tag of $5 for some extra quality of life improvements. Hence the name. But are you noticing a pattern? These mods make your gameplay less terrible. On the other hand, there have been some other mods that have screwed people over, therefore making gameplay terrible. And one of these aforementioned mods that screw people over was a mod called Just Enough Dungeons. A mod that would lead to one of the biggest account hijacking waves in Hypixel Skyblock. And this is how it went down. Rule 1 of the internet is never download any files from untrustworthy strangers. However, in some cases, the aforementioned file can be useful. Some people like to risk downloading random files if they could be used to their advantage. And in this case, the random useful file giving an advantage that is being provided by a stranger was called Danker Skyblock mod, which was applicable to a location in Skyblock called Dungeons. To many people in Skyblock, Dungeons is difficult. This can especially be said for the final floor of Dungeons, which has a boss that comes in 4 phases. Phase 1, 2, and 4 can be done relatively easily, but Phase 3 is where a lot of people choke, even for extreme try-hard sweat players. Phase 3 has 25 objects known as terminals. Each terminal contains a randomly generated puzzle, similar to a CAPTCHA. You have to complete all of them before you run out of time. But some people apparently do not know how to do them. So what if there was a way to automatically solve these terminals? The answer was yes. But everyone who used this client was banned. So there was another mod, called Danker Skyblock mod, which was released somewhere around the beginning of July 2020, by a player known as Danker, which used to be just another quality of life modification, but was later updated to help you solve dungeon puzzles, and updated again to help you beat the terminals in Phase 3 by highlighting what you need to do. Of course, this was met with heated debate because people thought it made the game more mindless as it already was. But there was a bigger issue on their hands. But first, how to find a session ID stealer, 101. Minecraft mods are usually a jar file. The issue with this is that opening them in Notepad will open a bunch of gibberish. There is no way you can find a session ID stealer this way. So we need to convert this into readable code. To do this, you need a Java decompiler. The Java decompiler I use is a program called Java Decompiler, which you can use to open a jar file into a program with understandable code. The string of text we are looking out for are these two things: launcher profile JSON, or launcher accounts JSON. Those are the files in which your Minecraft account data is stored, including emails, passwords, and session IDs. If any file mentions one of these two strings of text, it's most likely because the code is trying to access and steal your account info, which we do not like. And even if the mod does not contain those lines, you should still only accept files from a trustworthy source because there are a bajillion other ways to hack into your account. Speaking of trustworthy source, back to what we were talking about, which was Danker Skyblock mod, which a lot of people trusted. After it was updated to help solve terminals on November 29th, just 2 weeks after the release of Floor 7, many people began using it because it is a well-known fact that humans tend to choose the easy way out. Peoples include YouTubers. And YouTubers began covering Danker Skyblock mod in tutorial videos and mod folder releases, for tens of thousands of other people to see. And one of those people was a people called Portal 3. Speaking of people, this is what 7 billion people looks like when you pile them up in a giant pile. Can we have this many people subscribe to my channel? Please subscribe. Thanks guys. Back to the video. Portal 3 wanted to practice his programming skills, and what better way to practice than to create a dungeon mod while all the sweaty try-hard players were playing dungeons. So he began by copying the Danker mod files, and modifying them to make his own mod. He would then make a forum post to advertise the mod, which he called Just Enough Dungeons, and he created a Discord server for people to discuss Just Enough Dungeons. Everything was going well and normal. But there was a twist, however. While other people used them to do dungeon stuff, Portal 3 would use it to prank his co-op member. Portal 3 wanted to play a prank on his co-op by making him think that he had gained access to his account, by hacking into it and logging on. But how exactly would you do that? You can't exactly just ask someone for their email and password. But you didn't need any of these to hack into an account. Now introducing Session ID. Session IDs are generated every time you log into an account, and are used by servers to identify a player. So if you steal someone's session ID, you could basically impersonate that player. And Portal 3 would hack his co-op by stealing his session ID. And what better way to do this, than to hide an ID stealer inside his own dungeon mod. So on December 9th, this code was added to the program. This aforementioned code would steal your session ID, and send it to Portal 3. Next, he would send the mod to the unsuspecting co-op member, and then he could do the prank. Then he would remove the session ID stealer, and people could continue using the mod normally. But the prank went wrong. As in the co-op never got to download the mod while it had the session ID stealer, so Portal 3 didn't have the chance to do the prank. But while his co-op didn't get his ID stolen, the new version of the mod, with the ID stealer, was getting into the hands of several rich Floor 7 try-hard sweat players, and stealing their IDs as well. Because for some reason, he put the ID stealer on the public, downloadable version of the mod. But anyways, sweat players tends to be rich. As in billions of coins rich. So he was thinking, instead of pranking his co-op, he could prank everyone who used it. And instead of just logging onto them this time, he was going to steal their items and get rich. It was going to be. This is a terrible idea. This is actually so messed up. But we could have so much free stuff. It will be so awesome. But what would everyone think of me? I said, we could have so much free stuff. I don't want it. But I want it. No. Yes. No. But if you've read the title, you probably know what happened next. Over the next several days, Portal 3 would hack into 5 rich try-hard accounts, on separate days. One of those aforementioned try-hard players was a man who calls himself Dumpky, who used to be the number 2 carrot farmer. Another one was a player called Mai, who had a skill average of 43, so they had spent a lot of time on the game to get their stuff. Only to get robbed of everything. After stealing their session IDs, impersonating them, and transferring all their items and coins to his main account, he had gained 6 billion coins from 5 accounts. Let's put that into perspective. At that time, the richest player on the server, also known as a Kinsaw, had 16 billion coins, as he was going for 50 billion coins by taking donations. And that's after hundreds of hours of streaming and thousands of hours of play time. A few of the other richest players on the server had a net worth of around 8 billion coins. Which was also after thousands of hours of grinding. Portal 3 had just gotten the equivalent of spending months on grinding the game, in just a few days and a bit of coding. But just how much exactly is 6 billion coins in more concrete terms? It's nearly 8,000 USD in Skyblock gems, if you converted the Skyblock gems into booster cookies and sold them for coins. TLDR. It was a big deal. And of course, this would not go unnoticed. Portal 3 knew about this, but at this point, it was a bit too late. The mod, along with the session ID stealer, was getting into the hands of a lot of people. People were starting to investigate the sudden hacking. And a YouTuber joined the Discord server. It was only a matter of time until Portal 3 would get exposed in front of everyone. And one of the exposers was a man called Complex Origin, who knew a thing or two about code. And he began to look into the files of Just Enough Dungeons. Lo and behold, he found that the mod was accessing data from the launcher accounts file, which was an instant red flag. And the downfall of Just Enough Dungeons began. On December 20th, Complex Origin's findings were announced to the public. There was a session ID stealer in the mod, and everyone should change their passwords. Now, this information spread like a wildfire, with a lot of Discord servers warning people about the mod, and telling them to uninstall it as soon as possible. People began making videos exposing Just Enough Dungeons. And of course, people began to call him out, or send him death threats. But we won't be getting into that. Portal 3 now had 6 billion coins, and he was basically now in sandbox mode. So he bought a bunch of ridiculously expensive items that did not really have any practical use, except for flexing. Which included Doctor's space helmet and Minocloon's boat. Now it was time for the ridiculously expensive items that had practical use. He bought a bunch of cool talismans to use. Then he bought some good dungeon gear for his co-op, which included storm armor and a Hyperion. They were now living the dream life. At this point, they could have lived happily ever after, but then something known as human emotion kicked in. While Portal 3 was enjoying his newfound coins, he also realized that he had really messed up. What had started off as a way to learn programming, had turned into a huge disaster that caused chaos throughout the community, which he was not really going for. So he decided to stop hacking accounts, and he removed the session ID stealer. But he felt like that wasn't enough. So he did something that most account hackers didn't do. He began to return the money. He had about 3 billion coins left over after all the spending, so he returned it to the people he hacked. He tried to get his co-op to return the stuff he bought for him, which was worth around 500 million coins, but that didn't work. So he tried to liquidate the items that he bought so he could return more money. But this redemption would be cut short when the Hypixel staff stepped in. News of the mod had apparently spread so far, that a Hypixel admin decided to intervene. They weren't taking any chances, so they blacklisted any version of Just Enough Dungeons from working on the server, and they punished Portal 3. Portal 3 was banned for 30 days, and his profile was deleted in the middle of the refunding process. So there goes the other billions of coins of stuff he was planning to refund. His coins had disappeared as quickly as he had got them. Despite this, the admins made an announcement about the Just Enough Dungeons mod, which is probably the only time an admin has made a public statement about a malicious mod. And the people of Skyblock complimented the admins for how they handled it. However, it would not end there. Despite literally everyone in the community hating on Just Enough Dungeons, Portal 3's friend, Elegant, would pick up where he left off. He would rebrand the mod as Dungeons Rebooted, and he would continue developing it without the ID stealer. But was it really his friend? Because as it turned out, Elegant was Portal 3's alt account, which was exposed due to some clues unfortunately left behind. And people found out. At this point, the community had lost their trust in anything related to Just Enough Dungeons. It was unredeemable. The Just Enough Dungeons Discord server would be deleted, and Portal 3 disappeared from the Skyblock community. Lego Maestro makes a news video about this, but shortly after, everyone just forgets about it. And a few weeks later, the Just Enough Dungeons incident is simply yet another disappointment in Hypixel Skyblock's extremely big pile of disappointing moments. So everyone just moves on. But anyways, that's enough talking for now. Thank you to all the channel members. Consider becoming a channel member if you want to join an exclusive Discord server for members only. If you want to see me keep talking, then click on these other videos. Thanks for watching and also goodbye.